Hello everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm with Phil from Vox. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, actually, thanks to Thomann for having us.
Yeah, I know. We're very honored guests here, I think. It's great.
It's been pretty amazing because you sort of go from one, like, hey, let's go and hang out with this person, and then 5 seconds later, you're doing something completely different.
Yeah.
It's a little easier than flying to and from across the great Atlantic or Pacific Ocean, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit closer to home. And, there's obviously lots of our American pals who are suffering from jet lag very badly. And we're tired and we're only, an hour or so away. So
there we go. Marvelous. Well, so we're here to talk about a number of things. Not this beautiful guitar. I will say it is rather gorgeous, though. Vox AC10. I actually am a bit of a Luddite because until I saw it, 3 days ago, I didn't even know there was such a thing. I think I've been living underground. So tell us a little bit about this beautiful little beast.
Well, the AC10 has been, it's been on the market for probably coming up to about 2 years now. And it's, it's been a great product for us and really for Vox fans. I would say it's a real winner in the sense that, we wanted to make a real stripped down, simple amp. We've got our AC4s, which have been around for a long time, all tube AC4s. But, they probably are just like one step below being ready to gig and, basically, do whatever you would need with it. It's very much a stay at home and enjoy the vibe amp. Whereas, our AC15, which is an absolute, legendary amplifier and people are gigging with that in all sorts of different genres. We wanted something that was kind of even more simple than the AC15, so take out the normal channel, take out the tremolo circuit, and...
Which I never used on the AC15 anyway.
And that's it, it's one of those kind of really traditional, amp designs, which some people really indulge in and do all the Voxy things, where some people, a lot of different genre guys, like country players, stuff like this, they just want the tone. They want the breakup of an AC,
Which is this.
That's the one.
Rather lovely. And I'm glad there's a little touch of reverb on there. It's kind of tasty. It's gorgeous. And I do remember thinking, it's pretty darn light, even for my little weak self.
It's very light. I mean, it's got 10-inch Celestion VX10 in there, which is a kind of really kind of it's sonically it's got a bit of the Alnico kind of high end to it, but it's also got quite a lot of mid range. But ultimately it's a 10-inch driver, which takes the weight down a lot. And then we just made sure we engineered that cabinet to really sort of have a resonant low end as well to sort of fill a room or stage.
On camera, I will say I will be getting one. So we have to talk. I definitely will be getting one.
That's great.
Okay, let's. I've already played this, by the way, for those of you who don't know, back in the tent area the other day, and that's when I fell in love with it. But I want to talk about these little babies over here, which are remarkable. Beautiful. Wow, they're like spiky, like.
So at the minute, this is an MV50, right? This is the AC model of the MV50 range. So what they are is essentially a Nutube powered preamp, and we'll get into the Nutube technology in a minute. But this actually has a 50 watt Class D power amp. So despite its sort of
diminutive stature,
it's punching above its weight class.
A little bit, yeah.
So what you're hearing there, and that kind of big, jumpy sound, is the fact that's very low gain at the moment, but you've got so much headroom that especially with the Telecaster, it kind of really pops out with that, that kind of really clean, bordering on breakup kind of Voxy.
That's pretty fantastic.
And then if I bring the volume down a little bit and push the gain a little bit up.
Love that.
Very nice.
That's really tasty, yeah.
It was very Jerry Donahue kind of.
Yeah, totally
wiggly
stole it
something
from
up.
me. Messed it up now, didn't I? No, that's absolutely gorgeous.
So
I've got a first question because I know everybody's thinking, how much is that?
So, well, I'm not in the sales department. I'm nothing but an engineer. But I think you're talking sub €200, sub $200. You know,
Wow.
equate that into pounds. You know, it's a very, very affordable, you know, very versatile piece of kit. And my big sort of passion of this product is, you know, the Nutube technology, which is at the heart of the preamp. So
Now, you keep telling us you're an engineer. Does that mean that you had something to do with the design of this?
I was involved in this project, actually. This was much more, I was involved in the voicing process. This was actually developed by another amp designer in the company. And it was one of the first Nutube development projects that we had.
Yep.
And, you know, basically to jump into the Nutube technology, because, you know, it is a real huge breakthrough in tube technology. It's probably the biggest breakthrough in decades, you know, and it was designed in collaboration with a Japanese company called Noritake, and a very clever man inside the core corporation had a bit of a light bulb moment and realized he could repurpose this VFD display technology into a very familiar kind of dual triode format, you know, much like a 12AX7 is a dual triode.
Huh.
And the key
above my pay grade. So
well,
far,
no, but
dual triode.
The very simple stuff is, you know, this is a low energy consumption, low power preamp tube. So what it means as an amp designer and circuit designers, we can use much lower supply voltages and plate voltages for the tube. So that means we can design it with anywhere from, you know, whatever, 5 volts all the way up to kind of 80 volts or something like this. And what that means is that then the power transformers are smaller, all the capacitors are smaller, all these things, and it allows us to make genuine tube circuits, preamp circuits with genuine sort of tube harmonic breakup, you know, in much smaller formats. And, you know, the response we've been getting from a lot of people at this, you know, event and lots of others is that, you know, they really feel the reactive quality of that tube. You know, there's a lot of kind of compression and, you know, it makes you want to dig in a little bit more. So it's a very responsive, you know,
Speaking of which, so we're going to hear the other one. What's the difference between these two?
Well, so like I said, this is inside this, the circuit topology is very reminiscent of a 100% AC30 design, you know, so the tone stack is in the right place, you know, the gain stages are all lined up as it would be in a traditional AC. And then this model, this is one of the most popular models in the range, and it's very much a modified American boutique design, shall we say. So this has got a really big low end to, you know, very big resonant low end. And, you know, the more you're pushing the gain up and up and up, it starts to slowly break up in a very harmonic way. But ultimately, it's a very nice, clean platform, you know, whereas the AC is always begging to be pushed harder and, you know, get more of that breakup. The boutique is very happy, you know, in that kind of relatively high headroom, but sort of...
Let's hear it. Let's hear it drive.
So yeah, it's very fun. You know, that's a key part of these products is that, you know, we've got a high gain model as well, which a lot of the metalheads and the shredders have been plugging into all this weekend and have been really vibing off because, you know, it's one of those, these amps are designed and the Nutube is biased as such so that you get a lot of that compression, a lot of that kind of responsive interplay between the guitar and the amp, which is the cornerstone of kind of good valve amps, really, you know.
Now, being English, you call it the new tube because it rhymes. But don't you mean new valve?
New valve. I know this is if you were involved in some of the, you know, many meetings that go on to come up and finalize these naming things, you
I'm sure you had that discussion many. So, what do you got behind you?
What I have behind me is the latest in the range of AC30s. So this is the AC30 S1.
Beautiful.
What's special and unique about this model is that, again, similar to the story of the AC10, we wanted to do a very stripped back, simplified version of, you know, that AC sound, the AC30 S1.
Oh yeah, it's got that mid-range.
Right, yeah, the mid-range is different for the AC10. Yeah.
But I think that's what we always loved about the newer AC15s is they're a little bit more versatile. Now, don't get me wrong, the AC30, probably one of my two favorite sounds. I love Marshalls like everybody else, but my actual two favorite amp manufacturers are Vox and Laney.
Wow, fantastic.
Laney from early Laney from Black Sabbath, and Vox because of course Brian May.
Yes.
And the Beatles.
Yes.
But Brian May when I was a kid. So those are like the two sounds I always aspired to.
Yeah.
Was Tony Iommi's tone and of course Brian May's.
Well, I mean, and it might sound like a fib since I am obviously a Vox employee, but Brian May was, again, he was the first guitar player that I emulated with, you know, my mum and dad's broomstick in the kitchen and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So it's very close
English.
To my heart. Right?
Lots of us, it's probably more than any other guitar player.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, the thing about Brian May as well, which has always fascinated me and more so as I've kind of, you know, been doing amp design for a number of years, is that he is a very intelligent man. Obviously, he's a PhD, right? He's a PhD. And, you know, there's interviews of him discussing the AC30 and his love for this amplifier. And what I came to realize was that not only is he just a fan of the amp in the same way many players are, but he's actually very insightful about what the circuit itself is doing. And
didn't he, sorry to interrupt you, didn't he say the reason why, and I could be wrong, and so maybe I need to be edited to be wrong. Wasn't it Rory Gallagher that turned him onto it?
Yes, that is part of the true story. Yeah, he supposedly showed up at Rory Gallagher gigs and, you know, how do you get your sound? And then, you know, the answer being AC30. Yeah. So that was the genesis, I think, of it. But if you think about Brian May's setup, he has obviously his own red special and the kind of interesting, you know, pickups selections that he makes to get kind of very harmonically kind of rich tones and these out of phase sounds.
And
then the treble booster. Yeah. And what he seems to be saying, because there's a documentary where I think it's is it Ian Lee? I think the BBC presenter was interviewing him, and he very clearly says, you know, the purpose of the treble booster in the AC30 was to accentuate the upper harmonics in his sound. I think that's a quote. Again, I might be off by a few words, but it's close enough.
I believe it.
And the thing about that is scientifically he's dead on. You know, these ACs are harmonic distortion producing boxes. Everything about them, from, you know, the cathode biased, you know, power amps and the EL84s, and, you know, just the asymmetrical waveforms that are generated in these machines. These are even order harmonic generating monsters. You know, they are themselves filtering out all the unnecessary odd ordered harmonics, which can potentially become dissonant.
And they sound like no other amp.
They sound like someone is harmonizing with you. And again, if you, as a fan of Brian May, you'll realize how many awesome moments of feedback he's catching, these, you know, notes, fifths and octaves above what he's actually playing. And that seems to be part of his whole, you know, speciality and skill of conjuring out these sounds from his amp and his guitar. And
I love that all through his career, he's had the same 2 or 3 pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And he's managed to create a million different sounds of 2 or 3 pieces.
Yeah.
Which I think is an amazing lesson for all of us, because we keep searching for like, what's the best pedal with the best this and the best cable and the best pick and the best whatever. Sometimes it's just the ones you got.
Yeah.
You know, but get creative.
And then on the other side of the coin, in terms of, you know, famous Vox amp users, you look at someone like Edge, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think the only thing that he's basically kept consistent, other than, you know, maybe an SDD delay, is his AC30. The plethora of pedals and sounds that he uses, but yet still, without the AC30, there's something missing.
It's the nose. It's the... It's just got a solid kind of mid-range poke. If I'm trying to get, especially if I got like density and I've got like kind of big guitar chords, if I want something just to cut through, it's a very solid tone. It feels like it's this. And it's really good on picking stuff. You know. A lot of amps get really thin on these three strings, especially the top E. This one doesn't. An AC30 goes. That on, I won't say which amps, but it can be like really, really piercing.
Yes.
There's a mid-range solidity to it. Now,
Yeah.
when I was a kid and didn't know anything about amps, and still don't, I was told that AC30s are a Class A amp in the way that others aren't. Now, can you explain it to me? Because I have no idea what that means.
I can explain it to you, and unfortunately, I'm probably going to break a few myths
please.
along the way, but
Break some myths.
Okay, so the truth is they are not Class A amplifiers.
Oh, okay.
Strictly speaking, a Class A amplifier would be the Vox AC4, because that is a
AC4.
single-ended, single power tube, which means that one EL84 is doing 100% of the cycle of whatever waveform comes through it. Whereas AB amplifiers, in the same way that a Marshall Plexi is a classic AB amplifier, you're switching you're not switching, but you're alternating between one tube and another, or two tubes to another two tubes. So one half of the wave is covered by one half of the tubes, and the other half of the wave is covered by the other. But the reason why people think Vox amps are Class A is because they're basically about as bad at doing Class AB amplification as you can imagine. If your goal was to make the most efficient AB design, you failed miserably with an AC30. What that means is that basically the cycle is almost covered 100% by each tube. Each tube is running super hard, and again, that introduces things like crossover distortion and all these things which add to this harmonically rich distortion sound. So it's a happy accident that ultimately, benefits the sound. So they're not Class A. They're really bad at Class B, so they might as well be Class A, if you know what I mean.
But Class A minus, plus B,
something
minus
like that.
Q.
Oh yeah, and far be it from us. Obviously, none of us current employees invented the AC30, so it would be very wrong for us to decide, well, no, we need to now change the biasing and completely, this is not right. This is a legacy product, and all of these, and this is true of many amp companies, a lot of these little mistakes have become the core of the tone.
Then can I ask you one simple question, which I don't know if it's going to have a simple answer. The reality is that we're talking about a lot of amps obviously have differences in them, but the difference between an AC30 and every other amp is very, very marked. What is the fundamental difference in their design that makes them so different to everybody else?
Well, there isn't one single answer to that, but I would say it's a culmination of a lot of little things, definitely. But in terms of the preamp topology, a lot of, obviously a lot of amp designers or just technical minded people could look at a schematic and kind of start to recognize, oh yeah, I see what they're doing. This is kind of a Fender style circuit and all this, and this is a Marshall style circuit. There's real hallmarks in like preamp designs, and none of them are similar to an AC preamp. An AC preamp design is very, very unique, and
what were they thinking when they first designed it?
It's a very good question. Honestly, I swear it would be hard for me to answer that. I mean, and it's part of the reason I love all the folklore and different stuff about Vox, is because these are very unusual in their, in their design. And as I say, the topology of the preamp is unique, and then the use of EL84s at the time would have been pretty unique, because obviously all the Fender amps would have been using American tubes.
6L6.
Yeah, and then Marshall obviously became very famous for it. Exactly. So you couldn't put it down to one thing, but once you add up the 5 or 6 or 7 things that are very important, including, like I say, the power amp design and stuff like this, absolutely there is a few factors that seem to add up to make it sound the way it does. And I don't know if anyone on paper nowadays, if it tabula rasa, if they had no idea of how it was originally made, I don't think people would necessarily think, oh, this is obviously the most sensible way to design a guitar amp. And as I say, this industry and pedal designs and amplifier designs, a lot of them have a lot of happy accidents, which have become a huge part of the music that we all sort of have listened to and love ultimately. So
fantastic.
Dick Denny and the other guys who were around at the time, they have a lot to answer for, but then they clearly were working in a manner that was unique and pioneering at the time. So it's nothing but
when I went back to England maybe 15 years ago, I've met many times since obviously, but about 15 years ago, and I went to Denmark Street and I bought a Color Sound.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah.
And when Dick was still alive, and I
Wow.
think it was signed inside, and it was made in his garage.
Fantastic, yeah.
Dick Denny. Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you ever so much. This
My
has been
pleasure.
most enlightening.
No, it's
I
my
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
No, thanks very much.
And we'll talk off camera about how I'm going to get one of these.
And I will put you in contact with the right man. for
Okay,
sure.
marvelous. Thanks ever so much for watching. I'm sure you all have favorite AC30 tracks, whether they be Beatles songs, Brian May, or Brian May, and The Edge, and many other people. So I don't know. Give me some things to listen to, and give yourselves some things to listen to. I'd love to know what other Vox stuff is out there, because obviously, like we were talking about earlier, Brian May, you know, whenever people say you're responsible for AC30, he immediately goes to Rory Gallagher, which is awesome, because Rory's Irish live album, one, the silver one, the one that's chrome. If you haven't heard it, go buy it, stream it, whatever. It's amazing. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Have a marvelous time recording, mixing, and playing beautiful guitars that I can't afford.